Hello, everybody, and welcome to the FiveStack, the top
You said I was
five.
starting. You said I was starting.
You already started. You didn't start?
Oh yeah, welcome to the Substack top five
The
stories of the
FiveStack.
day with the five stack with my friend Zev Shalev. Yeah, it's good. You probably should start it.
It's the top five stories of the day as we're counting them down. We're a little late, and it's not my fault.
It's mine.
So
Yeah.
it's his fault. Sorry about that, everyone, but we're so thankful you're here. Going to go through the top stories, and there's so much to go through today. Sorry,
A
tonight.
nuclear amount of information today, but it's all information. And why we do this podcast, and so Zev, wonderful intro. Why we do this podcast is we like to keep Canadians and Americans informed on what's going on either side of the border, and we kind of try to put it together so that you get one coherent message about what the fuck is going on. And there's a lot of shit going on today, and I'm sure we're going to get to the roll call. But we had a major back off when it comes to tariffs, massive embarrassment out of the White House, which made me happy. In Canada, we've got an Indian interference probe that is blown up. Dollar store Trump's in trouble. We've got connections to China that we want to talk about. We're going to talk about China. It's all here, but we're here for you. We're here for each other. We're here for democracy today, Zev.
Correct. At number five. So, if you are one of the people who was laid off because of the market uncertainty of the last few days,
Yeah.
Donald Trump wants you to know that he's honored to have done that for you. That was his term, honored. If you sold high and you lost your retirement savings when the markets reacted, Donald Trump wants you to know that he's honored to have done that for you too. If you're a small business owner who made decisions, maybe you fired some staff, maybe you wanted to shutter your business because of all these tariff changes the last few days, Donald Trump is really honored to have done that for you too today. And if you're someone who's been awake all night just worrying about the safety of your family's finances, about the future of your family, because you're just worried about what's happening with all these tariffs, Donald Trump is honored to have done that for you. That's the term he used because he said it was the most important day in all of financial history, his Liberation Day. As he was backing down from what is a colossal mistake. I mean, there's no other way to describe what happened other than just a colossal policy error that cost $6 trillion, if not more, to people around the world and created chaos and pandemonium. And today he sort of backed off, but then didn't back off completely. He still left 125% tariffs on China. He still left the baseline 10% tariffs on the rest of the world. But then he gave everyone else a 90-day pause, which is really ridiculous because what are they pausing? Pandemonium? Are they going to go back to pandemonium in 3 months? Who knows? But they're going to try and negotiate deals individually with each of these 75 countries that have supposedly come to them offering to negotiate. We don't know if they have or haven't, but that's where we're at. And we're honored to be with you today. And Donald Trump is honored to be with you today.
Yeah,
too.
well, Donald Trump is the greatest, right? Like, I watched today, and things move so fast around him, Zev, and for everybody joining us, Donald Trump canceled all the tariffs that he said he was going to level at the EU.
Not all.
And well, no, he did for Canada. He pulled the 10% as well. So he's taken all the tariffs away, and I'll get to why in just a second, or the perception of why in just a second. But this is madness. He is literally an authoritarian dictator who is trying to leverage his way through threats, trying to keep people on edge, and short selling while he does it, because that's exactly what's happened. Adam Schiff and the rest of Democratic Congress members, they've opened up an investigation into financial impropriety with Donald Trump shortly after he announced ending the tariffs. But he ended the tariffs today. He carte blanche said, all the tariffs are gone. I'm going to keep 10% on the table for everybody. And then he pulled the 10% from Canada. And the White House put out a fucking tweet about it saying no tariffs, no 10% for Canada. They're good. And then proceeded to hammer China, the second biggest economy in the world, with 125% instead of the 104%, because he likes round numbers and he's a fucking idiot. And then proceeded to spend the entire day in the Trump media vacuum, where he had Caroline Leavitt and Bessent go out and absolutely butcher the messaging around why Donald Trump backed down from these tariffs, and I'll tell you why in just a second. And then he started his, famous "Let me suck all the oxygen out of the room" tour and talk about a million different things, including this. And let me tell everybody that I didn't back down. I was flexible, he said. And then he started talking about, which is crazy because you said 6 trillion. The number's more like 10 trillion the U.S. economy lost. And then he proceeded to tell everybody after the week of losses, after one entire fucking week of decimating people's 401ks, destroying businesses, forcing people like fucking Apple to fly in 5 plane loads of iPhones, and watching the automotive industry lay off tens of thousands of people, he then said, and this is fucking amazing to me, Restoration Hardware lost 40% of what they could, and they're still fucked because the Trump tariffs are still on China. Then he said, this has been the greatest day of financial day in the history of this country, because stocks rallied on the news that he decided to cancel tariffs until they went up 3,000 points today. The Dow went up 3,000.
Which is not as much as it's dropped, obviously.
No, it's down like 10,000 points. So like it's, what he does is, and it's pretty fucking classic. This is classic Trump. And I don't know why everybody sits around and goes, oh, he's going to go the whole Monty. He's going to decimate the economy. No, he's not. What he does is he makes these stupid fucking decisions when he gets his flight of fancy, and he feels like he's the smartest guy in the room. And he makes a decision in the face of sheer abject failure. It fails. He then turns that decision around, calls himself flexible, says he was honored to do this for the United States of America, and then says he's presided over the greatest ascent of the stock market in the United States' storied financial history. It was truly one of the most predictable, weirdest, most fucked up days in the history of anything related to Donald Trump today, Zeb. It was fucking wild to watch.
He's a mobster, right? This is like a protection racket. He'll light a fire, and then he'll be there to extinguish the fire. But this is not a fire. This was major pandemonium. I mean, he's done some terrible things like that before, but in this case, the impact of this was so far and wide, and I still don't get why people aren't saying that if there is a 10% tariff still in place, that is still a 10% tax on every consumer, on every item that they buy from overseas. So that is still a way huge tax that we've not anticipated, that is going to have a drag on the economy, that is going to hurt people or consumers at home. And ultimately it's going to make it very difficult for people to balance their budgets every month. So that to me is another issue, which is, this hasn't really gone away. It's sort of it's a bit of a delay tactic. To me, the China thing is really fascinating. I mean, why is he still sticking it to China? And we'll go into what I've discovered about his ties to China in just a little bit. But there's all sorts of murky stuff going on in the background. What I don't see how, the mark of a leader, supposedly, they tell us, is someone who can acknowledge his mistakes and correct course and say, hey, you know what? I tried something, it didn't work out. I'm going to try something else. Donald Trump is incapable of saying, I'm sorry. He's incapable of saying, I made a mistake, I did anything wrong. It all has to end with him being the
hero.
The hero. That's it. That's the spin on everything, is he has to be the hero.
Yeah.
And so,
even in the face of what we can clearly see as abject failure and incompetence, today he painted himself as the guy who rescued America from himself.
Yeah.
And meanwhile, and the recency bias of maggots out there that are going, oh, look, he's the fucking best. Like, I'm watching as proxies rally around him, whether it's Benny Johnson or Jack Posobiec or Charlie Kirk. They're like, this Bill Ackman who's screaming and crying about tariffs 2 days ago. He goes, that's why they call him the deal maker. Like he's literally none of those things. He is an abject failure of a businessman. He is an abject failure as a president. He is an abject failure as a fucking politician. He is a con man and a serial fucking liar who destroyed the United States economy in less than a week. And now he's taking credit for backing off because America was going to go into not a recession, a fucking depression, dude.
Yeah, there were market indicators about the bond market that were terrifying for everyone. I don't really know how the bond market works in relation to the stock market, but I know enough to know that the people who watched that stuff were freaking out. The bond market was starting to tank, and they were going to have a real problem on their hands. And so now the bond market is doing much better, of course, but those two things made him really concerned about the actual depth of this recession, that was going to be much bigger than a recession, could be a complete collapse of the economy. Yeah. And it was Goldman Sachs around 1:00 this afternoon who put out a statement saying, we see a recession coming, a 65% likelihood of recession. It was only an hour later that he pulled the plug. So we can assume maybe that's got something to do with it.
It does, but there's a couple other triggers
Yeah.
that not a lot of people are talking about. One is the bond sell-off. So, people in Canada started doing this as soon as he announced tariffs and was going through the 51st state bullshit about a month ago. Canada decided to sell bonds. We were like, okay, we're going to get rid of our T-bills, so we're going to flood the market with a bunch of U.S. cash. Quietly, Japan didn't do anything. They got hit with a pretty stiff tariff. And Trump's people started to get word that Japan wasn't talking. They weren't doing anything. They weren't threatening. They were just selling off the bonds, all their U.S. bonds, their T-bills gone. Boom, 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 boom. And you started seeing that bond sell-off because the market started to go like this for bond sell-offs. And you started seeing, and all of a sudden, America fucking panicked. The brain trust of pure fucking P-mush brain rejects that are running the White House. Someone in the White House went up to Trump and goes, okay, we're talking Armageddon if you don't stop this, because Japan's not going to stop. And here's the other part of that. Not only did Canada do it, the EU started to do it, certain EU countries, including France. And so everybody started shoving a whole bunch of U.S. money quietly into the atmosphere.
Yeah.
And that's when America panicked. That's why Donald Trump allegedly stopped this. But here's the catch. Even though Canada's off the hook for any of those tariffs, even though he took all the tariffs minus the 10% increase away, which is still fucking stupid, Canada isn't moving. The EU isn't moving. Our tariffs are still getting implemented. We haven't said a word about it, but we're not dealing with this shit anymore. Neither is the EU, neither are all these countries that are tariffing him back and the United States back. Until Donald Trump is gone, Canada's tariffs, and I have this on very good authority, stay in place. So we don't give a fuck what Donald Trump says or does today. Canada doesn't. We're just going to go it alone. We've already diversified those trade relationships, whether it be good or bad for business in Canada. And I think it's good for business in Canada to keep those tariffs in place. We're going to make sure that he understands that we're not going to vacillate with him. We're not going to do this back and forth game. What we're going to do is we're going to stay the course and we're going to keep these countermeasures in place. And I love that about us. And
this just lends credence to this idea, that the bond conversation you just had there, although we'll get to Canada in a second, that this idea that what he's really trying to do is manipulate the markets in order to get a renegotiation of the deal, of the debt that he is coming mature, I guess, from China, particularly this $250 billion. So if he was trying to, if he was freaking out over the bond sell-off, maybe that's why he was so, he pulled back so much, because he realized that he wouldn't be able to play that game and get the interest rates lowered in order to renegotiate that debt. That's one thing. The other thing about Canada, look, I think the opposition to Trump is terrific. I think the opposition to Americans is not great. I think we have to remember that Americans are going to suffer because of this, and they've suffered a lot already. And so, well, I applaud the world's complete boycott of everything Trump. I get that, but there are people who are actually losing their jobs. There are people who are actually losing their contracts. There are people who are not going to be able to, live their dreams. In some cases, have their businesses fail, or maybe not have the retirement that they all envisioned. This is what's happening as a result of all these crazy maneuvers by Donald Trump. And I don't think, just out of obstinance or stubbornness, other countries should just be avoiding that reality. There are people who are really going to be in harm's way because of these tariffs. And Canada's not like that. For me, I've never thought of Canada as being that kind of obtuse country. I'm glad that there's a diversification of supply chains, and I'm glad that that's all happening. That's fantastic. But we don't have to take it out on the American people, because that's who really suffers. The thing about these tariffs, as we keep pointing out, American people are going to suffer from this. It's even if at 10%, the American people are the ones paying for it, not Donald Trump.
Listen, I don't disagree with you. I think tariffs are bad for everybody. I think that penalizing consumers in either of our two beautiful countries is a terrible idea. 300 million people didn't vote for that guy. That's why we're only targeting red states with these tariffs. I get that. That's why it's very surgical. It's not the auto parts industry. It's only cars that aren't Kuzma and automotives that aren't Kuzma approved or compliant. But here's the thing, and I would ask you this question. How do you keep playing this game unless you tell him you're fucking serious, right? Because this is now the fifth time he's taken tariffs back after telling everybody tariffs are coming. The fifth fucking time in a month and a half, almost 2 months. And so it's the same with any country that he deals with, any business that decided that, hey, to avoid these tariffs, we're going to move, manufacturing to the United States, which Apple said they were going to do. They canceled that today. They said we're not going to manufacture in the United States at all because iPhones would be $4 or $5,000, and we can't keep dealing with this vacillating fucking clown. We can't. And so my question to you is, what's the other fucking choice that Canada or any other business has to make? Because no business has any confidence in dealing with Donald Trump and this administration in bringing their business to the United States, specifically if he changes his mind this fast, Seth.
Look, I agree. If we can isolate him, if we can boycott him in every way possible, if the people of America stood up to him and protested him in the most extreme way possible, I totally think that's great. I think if we don't respond in any cooperation way with him for all these key issues that that matter to him, those are all ways of doing it. I just worry about the American people who are going to be suffering through this.
I do too. But listen, here's the thing: is that if it's not Canada's fault. It is not the EU's fault.
No,
it is Donald Trump's fault. And so if those beautiful American people who are caught up in the crossfire of these countries and their fucking tariffs, if they want to turn their attention to the person that has made this fucking wholly untenable for them, that's destroying their financial lives, I think it's a fucking good thing to keep these tariffs on. And here's why. It's because people are going to go, what are you doing? And we're going to point at Donald Trump with all four fingers and two thumbs and go, it's not us, it's him. Get him out. Mm-hmm. And that's part of the leverage that we have in keeping these tariffs on.
Look, I think if what you're suggesting is really sort of a boycott of America based on the fact that they've got an illegitimate leader, and look, that worked. It worked in South Africa. I remember the sanctions against South Africa were very effective in ending the apartheid government. I mean, if that's the approach we want to take to Donald Trump, that requires a world coalition and a real coordinated approach to how we're going to isolate this government and make sure that they don't destroy democracy. And maybe that's a very, very good way of doing things. Maybe that's exactly what needs to happen. It doesn't necessarily need to be in this particular way of just these sanctions. Maybe we do need a global coalition of anti-Trump countries and that support all the anti-Trump movement inside the United States, which is desperately interested in getting rid of this illegitimate leader. I think there's a lot of interesting things that can be done around there. And maybe the world needs to think about that. Is how do we support the American people in overthrowing this government? Mm-hmm. Because what you've got here is a regime that is completely illegitimate, that is now just, consolidating power in a way. I mean, the one thing that we got over the last week is that this man is now consolidating enough power just around himself that he can cause absolute chaos in the world on a whim. Mm-hmm. On a wake up one morning and decide.
You saw it today. You saw it the last week. You saw it today. Yeah.
So that is not democracy. That is not the way the American Constitution is meant to run, and that is not a constitutional government. Then you've got a presidency that's running on its own as a dictatorship. It's completely pulled the rug on the Constitution. In that case, well, then the American people have a real case to get rid of him. And if they have a real case to get rid of him, then I think the world should be supporting their efforts completely and fully, because this for 4 years is not tenable. We know that. We can't have people being pulled off the streets, out of universities, out of their homes, and flown to El Salvador to a jail and never be able to be heard from again or returned. I mean, this is nonsense. We don't have that kind of existence here. We have rule of law, and this is how we do things. So, there's a lot to be said for, a real push. And maybe what this tariff thing is going to be is that they've consolidated enough opposition now to Donald Trump that we all are in total agreement that this guy needs to go. And maybe that's exactly where it is.
Maybe. I hope it is. I know I watched every single, billionaire that turned on him over the past couple of days, then laud him today as some kind of fucking financial genius, which was hilarious. But this is what he wants, and I'll give him some credit, not any, intellectual or academic or financial credit. I'll give him some credit for being absolutely fucking soulless enough to be able to turn something that he is 100% responsible for, which has destroyed the United States economy, which is, it's probably caused people to fucking commit suicide. It's probably caused businesses to shut down. I know it's caused tens of thousands of layoffs. I know it has damaged businesses irreparably for generations. And for him to sit there like the cock of the walk and take credit for a bounce back, the relief that came from Wall Street, knowing that Donald Trump fucked up and Donald Trump decided to get rid of the tariffs entirely and focus all of his attention on China, which again is another incredible fuck up. Listen, the markets came back today because it was like a massive sigh of relief from every billionaire and every major business. The stock market are just the biggest, best businesses in North America, specifically in America, that are generally lying about how fucking wealthy they are, how good they are, what they do anyway, right? Mm-hmm. So that confidence bled that into the market. That wasn't something Donald Trump did. It wasn't like he gave the investors confidence. He just said, I'm going to pause this for 90 fucking days.
Yeah.
And if you saw that bounce back today, and it came back in a fucking fury. It was down like minus 855 this morning. It's up 3,000 points at close. It was amazing to watch. And I was actually happy about that. It wasn't like I'm not rooting for, a financial devastation of America's 401ks. I'm not rooting for the financial devastation of the United States at the hands of this dickhead. I was actually really happy about that. But it was such a fraudulent explanation about his involvement in that, because he left out the idea that he caused tens of trillions of dollars in damage prior to that, even last night. I'm watching this black tie event where he's talking about, I don't know if you saw it, he's talking about how weak people are and how there are some senators who aren't on board. And don't worry, we're going to be rich. You fucking losers don't understand what I'm doing. And then today he's like, the reporter asked him in the Oval Office, how long were you thinking about cutting these tariffs? He's like, for a few days. No, he wasn't. Last night he was ginning people up at a fucking black tie event, talking about how he's going to go the full Monty and he's going to destroy world economies to make America great again. And he in no way, shape, or form was going to back off. 2 days ago he said the same thing. I'll never fucking change my mind. He is literally unwell. Like he's fucking insane.
That bounce back today, I mean, that's great for the institutional investors that were able to jump back in and get their stocks and climb up. But what if you're like mom and pop who, had to sell off their retirement savings or freaked out and sold at a bad price? Are you back in the market in time to capture that rise again, or have you lost a whole lot of money in the meantime? I bet you've lost a whole lot of money, because when those investors come home tonight and they see the tariffs are now off, maybe they want to jump back in the market. It's already taken off without them there.
That's a great point. Is that, do you have any confidence in those markets anymore with that guy being able to tweet something out and swing trillions of dollars one way or the other? The answer is no. And the other part of that, which I find interesting, and I mentioned it earlier, and we can move on to the next topic if you want. But the other part of that I found that was very interesting is all of his friends were shorting the market as this was happening, right? And now he's under investigation. His administration is under investigation from Congress for financial impropriety in that manner. So it was almost like, okay, we've taken enough. Now we're really going to do irreparable damage. So let's reverse course. So
this morning he told people to buy stocks, and if they listened to him on Truth Social, and this morning they said buy stocks. Now maybe that didn't happen the way we think it did, but if it turns out that he told them to buy stocks and he already knew he was going to pause this, well, that's insider trading. I'm sorry, that's just insider trading, and
on a public scale.
Oh, that you've never seen. It's like a massive. It's ridiculous. So this leads into the number. I haven't done China, but I'm going to do it anyhow. So the number 4 story is this memo I found. As I've been researching the last few days, I've been going into Trump China. We've heard so much about Trump Russia, but I was like, there's a lot about China and Trump that's really interesting. And as this was setting up as a superpower battle between China and the United States, I thought I got to go back and look at all my files. Last few weeks, I've been looking at a lot of the Steele dossier documents. These are the documents that were filed by Christopher Steele, former MI6 Russia desk chief.
PP tape guy, yeah.
Yeah, so he released a lot of different dossiers over the period of time when he was an FBI informant. We only saw some of that at the very beginning when we saw the original dossier, which was all about Russia and about the PP tapes and all these other things. But there were other things that he kept filing. And amongst those very interesting filings, which I'd never seen, and I'm pretty schooled on Trump Russia, but I'd never seen this particular filing. And in it, it says, I wish I could show it to you, but I can't. But I'll say it's point number 5 in this document. It says this. So Commenting on the negative media publicity surrounding alleged Russian interference in the US election campaign in support of Trump, Source E said he understood that the Republican candidate and his team were relatively relaxed about this because it deflected the media and the Democrats' attention away from Trump's business dealings in China and other emerging markets. Unlike in Russia, these were substantial and involved the payment of large bribes and kickbacks, which were they to become public, would be potentially very damaging to their campaign. So Chris Steele, through his sources, and there were good sources, I believe, in a lot of these cases. He's faced a lot of criticism, but he is pretty good at what he does. He had evidence here that the Democrats were happy that it was about Trump Russia that everyone was focused on, and not about China, because there were bribes, kickbacks, and large payments involved in his relationship with China. And when you really dig into it, there is an incredibly strong connection between China and Donald Trump, and it goes back many, many years. It goes back to almost, I think, in the 1980s, and there's Bank of China loaning him $200 million. There's his connection with Binance in terms of his crypto offerings. The Trump family is currently negotiating to get a piece of Binance's North American market. That is ridiculous for someone who's about to make crypto a deregulated thing. So he's very, very conflicted. On top of that, all these avenues where he gets a lot of this money from, they come through Hong Kong. And one of the areas, I guess, that is not being tariffed, or was never tariffed in this whole thing, was Hong Kong, which raises a lot of questions. Why China and not Hong Kong? You're making China the enemy of the world, 125% tariffs, but Hong Kong, which is part of China, no tariffs.
Yeah, no, it smells, and you're right. I read that a while ago. That I think I actually read it on your Substack. I know you put a great piece out on it as well, on how they were really actually not unhappy that everybody was focusing on Russia, because it meant nobody was focusing on his business dealings in China, which are significant. We can go back to the trademarks of Ivanka getting approved during her time in the White House as some kind of fucking genius. We can go back to the loans, the close personal ties. He never insults China. He's just bigging up China. And part of me wonders if this whole tariff thing is to change direction, is to pivot away from anybody looking into or thinking that Donald Trump still has business in China, still has relationships in China, which he does. His entire fucking family does, to your point. They're trying to negotiate with a couple of Chinese businessmen. They're trying to negotiate for the ownership of fucking TikTok right now, which is a Chinese company. So let's not throw the baby out with the bathwater. So when you look at these 125 percentage points on tariffs, I don't doubt that a lot of that has to do with him trying to leverage the purchase of TikTok from these guys, and also direct people's attention away from the idea that he's deeply invested and deeply compromised by China as well. So a lot of people, specifically his maggot base, are going to look at this and go, look, he's standing up for Canada. We hate those commies. And yes, China's a fucking terrible fucking country that puts people in work camps, that treats their citizens like shit. You don't have human rights in China. It is a black country. So it's really easy for people to get on that train with Donald Trump and go, I guess he might not be compromised by China, when he totally fucking is, and has been this whole time.
Owned by China. When you look at Truth Social and the SPAC that bought Truth Social, it is now valued at $5 billion. His personal stake in that, I think, is $5 billion. That is a ridiculous amount of money for a niche little play like Truth Social, which has a few followers and basically his account.
400,000 people that are on Truth Social, for fuck's sake.
So for it's not worth that kind of money. It's been pumped up to be worth that kind of money with Chinese money. They own him, and that's all the money he has in the world, right now. So you've got the situation. I view this as somewhat cynically as he is very much acting in concert with China, whether it's to become the dominant reserve currency of the world, whether it's to embarrass the United States. It seems to me that repeatedly, whether it's COVID or the initial trade battles with China in his first term, or even what we're seeing right now, there is a tendency to lean towards China and that China tends to be the beneficiary of all these things. Even just the chaos he's creating
Sure.
tends to help China. So I've investigated various ties through Rupert Murdoch's wife, Wendy Deng, or ex-wife, who's a Chinese spy who helped bring Jared and Kushner and Ivanka Trump together, who helped hire their Chinese national as a nanny in their home. I mean, there's a lot of Chinese spy activity going around there. Steve Bannon's association with Guo Engi, another big spy association there with the Chinese. There's just so much China going on. And you remember when they were first inaugurated this year, Vance had this weird photo with the Chinese premier, the vice premier. That was the only photo with any world leader before they took office. And what does that signify? What does that really say? That says, "This is my boy. This is my boy."
Yeah.
And so what we're seeing, and it's the same thing with Musk and his connections to China. This whole thing stinks to me. This whole connection with China makes me very, very weird. And would you feel so ballsy about leaving 125% tariff on China if you didn't really know that they were okay with that? You probably wouldn't. He's just he's leaving it hanging there because he knows maybe Xi gets to pocket some of that. Of course he does. The tariffs bring in revenue. Maybe he'll put in some money aside for himself. Who knows? But I just view this whole thing as your favorite word, performative. But I also, it really concerns me that the entire United States executive branch is being completely hijacked by potentially China, which has always played this game. Has always played this game of we don't fight our own wars. We get other countries to fight our wars for us. Hence Russia. So
yeah, no, that's a great point, and it's a great Substack article. I'd encourage everybody to go read it over at narrative.org because there's very limited understanding of what goes into these relationships and the backstory behind it. And you did a great job of laying it out specifically from the Steele dossier. Hey, listen, Donald Trump is his own best friend. Donald Trump has never met money he didn't like, no matter where it came from. He'll figure out a way to justify it, and he'll figure out a way to rug people along the way. I don't disagree with you. Not only does something smell, I don't see a world where the ultimate goal is, expansionist dreams on behalf of China, Russia, and the United States. They all want the same thing. They all want the Arctic Passageway. They're all working together for the same goal. I bet a lot of this is a psyop. I bet a lot of this is Donald Trump and China saying, "Hey, you tariff me, I'll tariff you. We'll do this. That way I look like I'm actually a hardliner against China. Americans will really think that's cool. We won't really do the tariffs. We'll just pretend we're doing the tariffs." But China did something today that was really interesting where they blocked like a bunch of U.S. meat goods, luxury goods from coming into the country on top of meeting them with that 104% tariff and on top of meeting with that 125. So yet to be seen if that actually happens. I mean, all of this is rhetoric until it happens. All of Donald Trump's have been rhetoric, turns out the entire time. So we'll see. But no, it's going to be very, very interesting for sure.
But maybe, some of this attention, because I wasn't the only one speculating about some of this, maybe some of this attention on whether this was the battle for hegemony between China and the United States. CNBC was starting to talk about it. That maybe they just thought, hey, let's back off this because we can't have this fight if everyone knows what we're fighting about. Number 3 story, if China's all about Trump, PP Poilievre is all about India. Tell us about that.
Namaste. Thank you very much. Yes, we've got an election coming up here. We're in the thick of it. Pierre Poilievre, by every major lever and every major poll, is tanking. He's the dollar store version of Donald Trump. Whether it's starting with Nanos and Abacus at like +10 for Mark Carney, who is a fucking economic legend, and he's taking this country by storm, and he's giving us our pride and our security and our comfort back, which has been incredible. We've had children running this country for a long time, and a MAGA child wants to become the next prime minister in Pierre Poilievre. Well, some things have been chasing him around that have been very interesting. His ties to foreign interference. Now, Pierre Poilievre is still refusing his national security background check. And by the way, he is a piece of shit. Yeah. Like he is so incredibly fucking rude to female reporters. He mocks people. He never gives great answers. He's Donald Trump in glasses with probably the same sized penis, really, really tiny little mushroom dick. And nobody knows his real
A willy.
history.
Is that what you called it? A willy? I think
Winky. He's got
a
a tiny
winky.
little winky.
Yeah, it's just to bring us full circle here.
Yeah, and a little tummy. But he's got a tiny winky and a little tummy. No, so a report came out today, and he's been dogged by his lack of security clearance, lies about why he doesn't get it, and we know why he doesn't get it, because he's in bed with foreign entities. He's in bed with MAGA. The messaging and the narratives that go side by side, where you've got one guy talking to MAGA from Canada in the Maple MAGA party, and they're getting in touch with Alex Jones, and they're telling Elon Musk to boost things, and getting Donald Trump to go on Fox News and go, I really like the liberals. It's just been fucking hilarious to watch. Yeah. So he's completely compromised, and we know it, but we got receipts for that today, where the BJP party, which is the governing party of India, was caught red-handed funneling money into his leadership campaign so that he could win the leadership of the Conservative Party of Canada, on top of giving them money so that they could pay a whistleblower to take out his conservative opponent named Patrick Brown. Now, this is something we all knew, because we read and we're not stupid, and there have been enough receipts. I've written about it. Major news outlets have written about it. But today was the first time we actually saw receipts that India, who committed transnational terrorism in this country, killing Canadians on Canadian soil. It was a big news. Yeah. FBI had informed Canada and CSIS it was going on. It was huge news. A guy named, I can't remember his name, he's a Sikh guy. He was killed. There's been attempts to murder and assassinate other Canadian nationals through India. So now we know that government not only supports Pierre Poilievre, but paid so they could rug the entire Conservative Party and make sure he got in so they could do his friendly bidding. And he was asked about it today in a press conference. He pretended he didn't hear Judy Trin, who's an incredible fucking reporter. He's like, what's that? Oh, there's a protester. I don't know. And he had a protester drown her out so no one would ask any India questions, on top of putting all the reporters that showed up in a fucking cage about 50 feet away from the stage so no one could ask any questions, because he's petrified that he's going to have to answer these questions about his foreign interference. He is in trouble. He's not just in trouble like he's going to lose the election, and I don't think it's going to be lost. I think it's going to be a fucking bloodbath. He's in trouble with the law. Pierre Poilievre is so interconnected and compromised by foreign governments that have done terrible things to Canadians and for Canadians just because he wants to win and enrich himself, that Pierre Poilievre is in major fucking national security legal jeopardy right now.
I am so glad that Global National, or the Global News team, which I used to work with, did this great stuff, good work. But also, I've been calling for this for a while. Like, where following the money of this story was so important, because we all knew the main allegation, as you were pointing it out, but we hadn't seen the money receipts. But now we have them, and if they are as significant as this is, this man is not maybe going to jail. It's quite significant what's going on there, and it wouldn't be a terrible thing if he were.
Yeah, someone says, how do intelligence services allow such people to run? Strangely enough, and I looked into this, and this is just a quick aside before we move on to the next story. Strangely enough, there is no clause, like there wasn't in the United States, that says someone who doesn't pass a national security background check can't be the Prime Minister of Canada. Something that needs to change ASAP.
Yeah, we do need that in this particular climate. Story number 2. So you've got a little bit of an Elon Musk that's kind of funny, but there's also new evidence that really Elon Musk is doing everything we all feared he was doing, which is building basically a surveillance machine, a big brother, if you will, that not only is it AI agents that are surveilling your social media accounts, figuring out exactly what you're saying, ordinary citizens that are being monitored by Grok now, apparently. But also, they're taking all this disparate information from Social Security, from Treasury, from OPM that they've been getting, all this data, and amassing it into one big database, which is not the way the world is run before. We sort of have different silos, and for good reason we've had different silos. But they're going to take all this data, that your social media data, your tax data, your health data, your Social Security data, and put into one place which is going to give them the most incredible view of every individual. And it's a complete invasion of privacy. It is the ultimate Big Brother. Actually, when you think about it, it's something that China, it's a theme today. China does this exact thing, and then they penalize people based on what they find out. So you'll lose their social credit scores if you get found to be saying something against the Communist Party of China on social media. They'll deduct some of your ability to loan money, or they'll have you locked up in your apartment for a week, or whatever it is they do over there. And Elon Musk seems to be doing just that with Doge right now. And it's important that everyone pay attention to it. They're also using AI to monitor federal workers at work to see if they say anything against Donald Trump, which is a part of the clearing out of the so-called liberals, or the libs inside of the federal government. So
the woke libtards.
Yeah, you got to get rid of them. Only have right-wing extremists everywhere. That's the way you should govern. So Big Brother is a significant concern, and when you got a man in power like Donald Trump, who's basically intent on retribution on everything, that is very dangerous. And especially if he's sending people into foreign countries without due process and just leaving them there, including potentially citizens in the near future. This is very worrying that they've also are building the surveillance arm that is going to basically be an AI overlord over everybody. And if you step out of line, who knows what will happen? Maybe you'll be going to El Salvador too.
If you thought for a second that he wasn't doing that, we've talked about this several times. I'm sorry that you are slow. I really am. There's only one reason Elon Musk hires a bunch of 20 to 22-year-old hackers named Donkey Dick and supple
big
nuts,
balls.
big balls, whatever, supple nuts, that came from hacker backgrounds. It's to collect data. It's to collect your data. It's to sell your data. It's then to surveil you and your data. It's then to penalize you. It's to create a digital identification board where they can decide if you're worthy enough to receive your social security check. They can decide if you're worthy enough to get an email from them. They can actually change elections in a moment's notice by targeting those people and their data. On the average, for every individual that's online, there's about 5,000 data points per human being. If you remember anything about Cambridge Analytica, which is that Facebook organization that Steve Bannon was involved in, they literally created a database of each individual voter that they wanted to be able to turn with certain information. And it was based on 3 to 5,000 data points. And everybody has those data points online. You have them, I have them. Generally, they were protected. Where they get the most data, though, is from government-sourced ecosystems, from infrastructure and mainframes. And each individual mainframe, depending on whether it's the Department of Health and Human Services or Social Security or the Department of Justice, they've got lots of data on people that they've been collecting for a very fucking long time. The CIA, the FBI. Elon Musk specifically went in there to gather all that data so he could own all that data and then decide who he would bless with all that data, and also build that program that helps him control how that data gets seen, narratives you can use that data to run, and who you're going to bless with the opportunity to destroy America from the inside. And that's what Elon Musk has done. If you didn't think he was doing that, like if you literally, and I saw so many people tweeting, he's like, "Oh no, he's just auditing to make sure that we're not overspending."
No,
that never happened once. They didn't do that once. They kept putting up fake fucking receipts of billions saved, trillions saved. None of those things panned out. They were all lies. Every single one of them. And the reason why they did that was to distract everybody from the code they were inserting into each individual mainframe, the data that they were scraping, how they were taking that data out, who was doing it, and why. And this is why they did it, so that they could surveil Americans at home and abroad to do what China does. So, for all you people that are like, Biden's a commie, liberals are commies. No. This is what commies do. These guys are like, they're communists, they're fascists, they're nanny states. This is what Stalin did before he killed 400 million people. Those are the actual estimates, not 100 million. Is they collected data. This is digital Stasi. This is literally the FSB, but an automated version, and he has all your data. And that was the entire fucking deal that he made with Donald Trump.
And we've been
The
talking
entire deal.
a lot about China today. And who does Elon Musk have a great relationship with? Chairman Xi. Where does all Elon Musk's money really come from? If not the American government, it comes from the Chinese government.
And
And if you
what do
don't,
those governments want more than anything?
data on Americans, and especially in China, they know how to use this data. They already have the surveillance infrastructure in place. They know what it looks like. They know what machines to run through it, what algorithms to run through it. They'll be able to use this data in a way that we haven't even thought about. And so, it's very dark. It's not. It's very dystopian, but if you need another reason to go protesting on the 19th, there's a good one. The number one story of the day, because we have to get to it quickly, is two sort of interlinked but disturbing stories out of Europe. There is now a real belief that the Trump administration is going to pull out these 10,000 troops from Europe. That is not what the current general commanding the U.S. command wants. He, of course, saying that the potential to withdraw up to 10,000 troops from Europe he's consistently recommended maintaining current levels since Russia's 2022 full-scale invasion. And he's actually fighting this attempt to pull back these troops. I think it's a huge issue, and people need to pay real attention to what's happening in Europe, particularly because on the other side of Europe, Donald Trump Jr. is about to go to Romania on a business trip just before the very controversial elections in Romania, where Călin Georgescu, who is a Kremlin candidate, is in the running again for being the president. The first time he was disqualified because of the Constitutional Court there. This is a significant thing when you've got the son of the President of the United States traveling to a country to support a Kremlin candidate for the presidency of Romania in a clear case where the democracy has been destabilized there. In a clear case where the Russians are running information operations in there to elect this guy and to confuse the electorate. For the son of the president of the United States to be going to, to that part of the world to back a Kremlin candidate is disgusting. And it needs to be pointed out by everybody. This trip needs to be canceled. It is an embarrassment if the son of the president of the United States is in Romania just days before this election.
Have you heard of DCOT? DCOT is it's basically the FBI or the CIA of Romania.
Okay.
They fucking hate Donald Trump. They hate the Tates. They're the people that are actually going after Andrew Tate and his rapist brother Tristan for human trafficking. There are a couple reasons Trump is going. And by the way, if you're DCOT and you hate Trump as much as you say you do, all you have to do is look through his plane. I guarantee you'll find some cocaine.
Yeah, probably. That is, he's going on a Trump business trip.
Yeah,
so
that guy has been coked out of his fucking mind for like years. Yeah, at one of the Musk launches, he was rubbing his fucking gums with cocaine while he's watching. So there's that little pro tip for DCOT. Go search his plane. Maybe look in his anus. You might find some things. But the other part of this, as you pointed out, is it's so blatant. It's not a business trip. He's going to support the Kremlin candidate. He probably got a call from Putin. Putin's like, "Hey, we need your help over here. Send one of your proxies." So he's going to send his dumbest kid. And who he's several times has said, "I fucking hate that kid." Like Donald Trump hates his own kids, other than Melania, who he wants to have sex with, and he's made that very painfully obvious several times. He has said several times, "I don't know what to do with Don. He's just a loser. He'll always be a loser. I can't believe I even had that kid. I can't. I hope he's not mine." Like that kind of stuff. So, what do you expect? Maybe the same thing out of Greenland, right? These are just stupid, performative, like, "Hey, I'm here and I'm important, even though I'm not. I'm just a fucking coked out son of a con man who's, written his con man coattails to thinking that I'm fucking important. And here I am in Romania looking important." I'm like this has got nothing to do. And I believe the Romanian people, from every poll that I've seen and everybody that I know that knows anything about politics in Romania, which is fairly small, like my buddy Alex, who's in Ukraine. I talked to him about this the other day, and he's like, we think it's a big deal over here, but the Romanian people fucking hate it. Kind of like when he went to Greenland. The people of Greenland are like, "Get the fuck out, dude. Like, we don't want you here," right? It's just it's just another one of those stupid fucking operations where,
It is,
yeah.
but he's the president's son, and that has some capacity, and it's embarrassing. The president of the United States
Can you
is
imagine if they catch him with coke though in Romania and
that
they don't let him out of prison? That'd be
would be
so
amazing.
great.
That would be amazing. That would be amazing. That would be a very good thing. Listen, I have no respect for Donald Trump Jr. I don't care, very much what he thinks. I'm sure the Romanian people don't care either. But the optics of this are terrible. You've got the president of the United States who's backed by Putin, and now his son is going to back a Putin candidate in Romania that's already been disqualified in previous elections because of Russian interference. It sends the exact wrong message to the world, but it does, of course, confirm what we've always said before.
Well, dude,
That
like we already know.
we
Like
know.
we know. I mean, like this is just like, oh, okay. Of course he's going to Romania
Yeah.
to support the Kremlin candidate because they're all Kremlin fucking assets. All of
Uh,
them. Donald Trump, Don Jr., burn
all of
victim
them.
Trump, Eric, who blocked me on Twitter the other day. I call him
Oh,
burn
lucky
victim
you.
Trump because he looks like a burn victim. He really does. It was like,
Badge of
oh my god.
honor.
As these are keep in mind, these are people that stole money from cancer charities so they could send themselves on trips several years ago. So like, dude, it is all a joke. Like as much as the tariffs were a $10 trillion joke, this will be a joke worth a few million. Donald Trump will get to go to Junior will get to go to Romania. He'll probably hook up with some ladies of the night. He'll probably get hammered. Guaranteed, he does a bunch of drugs, and then he'll go home and call it a successful trip and say that he really feels confident that the Kremlin's guy in Romania is going to win, and it's a win for free speech, and the guy will lose. Like Donald Trump just loses. That's what this entire family does. If they're not supported by foreign assets and foreign governments, they lose bigly. They don't get the
Yeah.
presidency and all these other things. So I'm not paying attention to it to the point where it's like, when I read that today, I'm like, oh, for fuck's sakes, really? This is just another show of stupid.
Yeah, it is another show of stupid. You're absolutely right. Um, I should mention as well that Eric, did you see Eric's comments the other day about saying that there's if anyone interferes with the golden age, he put out a tweet, he's going to absolutely destroy them. If anyone, so this, it's like a real threatening, violent, aggressive message. I don't remember the
Oh,
exact
burn victim
message.
Trump?
Yeah,
Yeah,
burned.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So that was a crazy thing to put out there. But, because of all of this, I've still been investigating Donald Trump and China. And tomorrow on Narrative, I'll be publishing my latest piece, which is going to be all about their crypto entanglements with Binance and with this with their other whatever it's called, World Crypto Fund, whatever it's called, World Liberty Fund. These
World
guys,
Liberty Fund.
yeah, well, can you believe the name? They are so tied into Chinese money, and this whole crypto thing is such a Chinese scam. I can't believe people are falling for it. But they are certainly going to try and make some money off it. And you'll be able to read all about it tomorrow at narrative.org, where you can also now get a 30% discount on your annual plans. Because I wanted to match your gift. I couldn't quite match it, but 30% discount for your annual plans if you join before the 15th. And
Incredible.
tomorrow,
You're such a nice guy. Way to go. Way to go.
I love everybody. I love everybody here. I love everyone who's watching. I love you. And what do you have on deanblundell.substack.com?
Thank you very much. Yes, we've got the Trump about face. We have that incredible story of Pierre Poilievre in India. It's a real deep look into it, but it's a fun look into it too, which we all knew. And my favorite story today, which seemed to really do much better than most of them, which was crazy, was the story of Elon Musk getting bullied off of a gaming live stream where he called everybody, quote, a bunch of retards, pardon my language, everybody, cried and shut his computer off because he kept losing to people in the game, and everybody kept mocking him to the point where he got upset, started crying, and he got off the game. And there's actual live stream video of it, which you can see at my Substack.
Oh,
it's
buried the lead.
Beautiful. I know. It's so cute, though.
Wait. What did wasn't there also a story about steaks or something on your Substack?
Yeah, you can. Yeah, absolutely.
What was that?
Go there today. So listen, I love my American friends, and we want our real Americans, not MAG Americans, to come to Canada. So what I did is I published a guide.
Yeah,
you'll like this. This is really cool. If you like meat, I love meat.
I like meat. I like steak.
I like steak. I'm a big steak guy, and I'm a big steakhouse guy. You can go to my Substack and review the 5 best steakhouses in Toronto, which is on par with Chicago, New York, any city that says they're a steak city. Can't, like, Toronto's right there, and there are some prizes on that list. But the number one on my list is this go-to that's been around since 1959. They haven't changed a thing on the inside. If you are in love with steakhouses and you're coming to my beautiful city of Toronto, there's a guide there for people where you can go, I'm going to try these steakhouses because Dean has already given me the what for. So
is
there
that where
you
you
go.
taking me out for dinner? Is that what that's
Anytime.
happening? All right,
Yeah,
all right.
absolutely.
Let's
Anytime.
do it. Because, you know, we're rolling in it. You and me.
We're rolling in this Substack money.
Thanks very much for being here tonight. And everyone check out deanblundell.substack.com and narrative.org. We'll see you tomorrow night on the FiveStack at 5:30. And thanks for being here. Have a great night, everybody.
Bye, all.